Hello everybody, I am going to switch gears today and work on trying to identify the people in this photograph. I know that this is my great-grandfather, Herman Madsen. My grandmother told me that. She was pretty sure that was him. And then the other people in here we're going to talk about. I'm getting ready to ship the actual image. I have this in a frame, the original frame. This image was taken about 1885-ish, 1887 maybe. This Herman Madsen here was born in 1880, so he looks to be, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. One of the things that I wanted to tell you about was that I had Maureen Taylor, the photo detective. We did an episode on the primary channel about this image and another image right here. This is Christopher and Laura Madsen. This would be the parents of Herman Madsen, and this is one of their grandchildren, Bernice Madsen. So I'm pretty sure that this is Christopher and this is Laura Madsen. This is the house that Christopher built, and that house still stands in Laramie, Wyoming today. And so it's interesting. I do remember my grandmother telling me that there was a horse stable off to the left here behind this fence. And this is actually a neighborhood in Laramie. And so what I'm going to try and do is see if I can do a little bit more research and figure out who this guy is. I would like to get some extra confirmation. So that's the goal today, is to try and see if I can do a little more research about the time period. So if this image was taken around 1885 to 1890 at the latest, probably 1887, I want to see if I can find some records, because I'm pretty sure that this is either a younger brother of Christopher or a younger brother of Laura. And so I want to see if I can find some records of him in the neighborhood. I don't know if that's city directories or tax records or what, but that's what we're going to try and chase down today. So what I'm going to do, I've got the recording going, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and unpause my recording so that you don't have to sit through every little detail, but that's the goal for today. Now, to give you some context, I'm going to minimize this. This is my files for, and a lot of people ask me about this, so I might as well show you while I'm here. So I have this whole area I call the genealogy archives, right? Everything is in order of the surname. So these are surname folders. We have the Madsen folder within the Madsen folder. In this case, because they're images, I have some Madsen family photos that various cousins and people have shared with me over time. So what we want to do is we want to go to Christopher and, look at his documents. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I can tell you that he came over from Denmark on a ship. I think this is the SS Nevada, and this is an image that I was able to purchase off of the Norway, I think it's called, I don't remember exactly, Norway ships or something, but it's kind of cool when you can get a ship. So let me jump over to his research notes. So he was born in Denmark in 1850. This is Christopher now, not the little boy on the horse. Not him, but Christopher, wait for it. This is Christopher and Laura. Okay. And also, let me give you some context. So if I jump over to, and by the way, here's that photo on the primary channel, on the Genealogy TV channel, dating and identifying old photographs, where I had given some images to Maureen Taylor to help me try and figure this out. And there's that image in the background. You can see it. So let me close that out. In fact, let me go over here. So one of the things that I try to do when I am researching, on my far left tab, I always try and just leave a tree open. So here's Christopher, and here's Laura, and this is the boy on the hobby horse, Herman Miller Madsen, who's my great-grandfather. So these are my 2 times great-grandparents. And so one of the things that I try to do is just leave this open. Sometimes I accidentally close it and I have to go open it again. But on my left-hand tab, that way I can always reference who it is that I'm looking for and maybe some more information. And before you ask, I'll tell you what all these little mean. These little check marks means that these are just my little codes to myself. Sorry, I was choking there for a second. So the check marks mean that I have done the full set of research notes for this person up to a certain point. And so, I mean, pretty much everything that I had either online or stuff that I had acquired. So that's what that means. The little circles mean that that's a work in progress. So Christopher, I've already got his research notes. And so I've had some questions in the comments, and I do try and read all the comments. Some people were asking about the research notes. As you can see, I put a family search ID up here. In fact, while I'm here, I know you guys have already seen this, but I'm going to say on Ancestry, and it's picking up the hyperlink Ancestry. I'm going to remove this hyperlink. Let's see, maybe it's not hyperlinked. Let's just grab the format painter and fix that real quick. Then I'm going to jump over to Ancestry. Wait for it, make sure I get the right one. Please stand by. Okay, so here's Christopher, so I'm going to grab this hyperlink, Control C to copy. And then I'm going to jump back over to the research notes, and I'm going to hyperlink this, right click, link, paste, go. And now I can jump straight to him on that. I'm going to hit Control Save, Control S to save so that it's saved quickly. Okay, so here's Christopher. And he was born in 1850 in Denmark. And then there is, pretty much everything that I have found for him so far, including some church records from Denmark and so on. And so one of the things I was going to show you real quick, because as I was getting ready to hit record on this, I was reading through some of the research notes, and thank God I had put, like, see the little footnote, right? To put footnotes in, you would put your cursor somewhere and you would hit references and hit insert footnote. Whatever it is you use for a footnote, that's up to you. I prefer to do source citations, but here, because this was a Danish archive online website, I actually gave myself the hyperlink to get back to it. So then I decided, well, let's go take a look at it real quick. Let me see if I can get back to it. And so here it is on the Danish archive website, and here's Christopher Madsen. This is a birth registry. And as you can see, it's challenging to read. But yeah, so if we go up to the top, it's 1850. This is item number 19, and it's the 9th of August. Christopher Madsen, believe it or not, that's an S, okay? And so if we don't know what these items say, see, like this information up here, what you can do, what I do, is I grab the snipping tool. I'll do this again just for grins and giggles. I'm going to grab that. I know that says date, but I don't know what else it says because it's in Danish. And I can't get Google Translate to work on this Danish archive website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as capture number 3. And I'm just going to save it on my desktop. And I'm going to minimize that. Then I'm going to go over to Google Lens. And here I got Google Lens to translate the handwriting the best it could. And I had uploaded, this was like image number 1. So, and by the way, so if you go to lens.google.com and then you upload the image and then you go to this translate button down here at the bottom, it will try and translate the best it can the handwriting, but what I wanted was the headers. So here's where I had translated the headers. And I know I'm trying to zoom in, but you can't really see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this again. I'm going to go to lens.google.com. Wait for it. And it says drag or upload a file. So I'm going to go to my desktop, grab number 3 because that was the column that I was most interested in. I'm going to hit translate and see if it can, by chance, read it. Date of baptism. Awesome. So, all right. So now I know that was the date of baptism, either in church or at home. So now when I come back over here, while his birth was the 9th of August, I believe that's what it was. I have to go back and check. His baptism was the 27th of October, 1850. And I'm not sure what that says. It might be at home. So, long story short, Danish records are awesome. And I'm not going to bother going through all the rest of this, but they do have information a lot of times about other family members listed over here. And before all of this Google Translate stuff came out, I was able to get a Madsen cousin who is actually Danish, living in Denmark. We met on Facebook, and he translated some of this for me. And so some of that information I had put in here. Now, excuse me, I had translated it the best I could here. I could certainly go and do Google Translate for that as well. So long story short, I'm not going to go into all that again because that's not the goal for today, but I just thought that was helpful to be able to translate images and sometimes handwriting even in a foreign language. Okay. So in 1873, he sails from Denmark. He actually, so this is another thing. So when he came over, when you're looking for immigration records, make sure you're looking for both arrival records, which is immigration with an I, and emigration with an E. So you're looking for records in both places. So he's coming from Denmark to the United States. And what happened was, as I kind of started studying this, I went looking for emigration records as he's leaving Denmark. And I found records where he sails from Denmark to New York, and it said indirect route. And so what happened was he first went to Liverpool, and then from Liverpool, aboard the steamship Nevada, he sails for the United States. So on the 4th of March, 1873, he leaves Denmark, and he stays in Liverpool for a few days, right? And then he departs for New York, and he arrives on the 25th of March, 1873. So, you know, what is that? 13-day travel across the ocean, I guess. Is that about right? 14 days? Something like that. Anyway, whatever my math works out, I think it's 13 days. So he travels aboard the steamship. Now, for those who may not be aware about immigration, before steamships came along, it took about 6 weeks to get across from the European countries to the United States. Once steamships came along, it was about a 2-week trip. And so he arrives, and sometimes you can find in the newspapers when ships are arriving, and so that's always fun. Even though they don't necessarily name the passengers, you can learn more about the steamships, and so that's fun. Okay, so he comes over to the United States, and this is the arrival notification. And somebody asked in the comments, do I put images in the research notes? Typically not, but if I think they're fun, then I will, because, you know, they're my research notes, and I get a kick out of immigration images and things like that. So I put that in there. And so if it's something like census records, If it's a unique record, then I will put it in there. But if it's something that's easily found, like census records and city directories and that kind of stuff that's easily found, I do not. I just extract the information and put them into my research notes. So then Christopher Madsen decides that he wants to become a citizen of the United States. And so here's where, and I don't normally, unless it's very short, I don't normally transcribe, but where you see quotes is where I'm transcribing stuff. I don't normally transcribe things into my research notes unless it's very brief. And then in this case it is. And here's a picture of his first papers. This is his Declaration of Intent, which, also known as the first papers, where he is basically denouncing his citizenship to Denmark and his intent to become a U.S. citizen. So typically in the United States, you had to wait 5 years before you could file your final papers for naturalization. Now, some of the census records say that he is naturalized later, but I went ahead and wrote to the archivist in the Laramie County District, and they said they couldn't find anything for Christopher Madsen as far as final papers go. So this was, I believe, found online. Did I give myself a reference? Yes, number 8. So we go down to the source citations and territory of Wyoming. So this is where I found it, was the Wyoming State Archives in Cheyenne. So this is where I found the Declaration of Intent. Okay, I'm not going to go through the entire life story of Christopher Madsen here, because really what we're trying to do is get a sense of him and who this other person could be in that record. So I was trying to think if there were some other questions from last week. Basically, I extract information. I think in the last episode or maybe a couple episodes ago, I was dictating in here what I'm seeing in the census records. This was for a different ancestor, but it's the same story when I do it. I like to clean up my stuff as I go. File, save. Thank you very much. Oops, save. And all right, so I'm going to pause for a second and get reset. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so remember that image that I am trying to figure it out. If he was born in 1880 and he looks to be, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 years old, that means this is 1886, 1887, somewhere in that neighborhood when this photograph was taken. Okay, so where was this family in 1886, 1887? And there just happens to be a map of Laramie, Wyoming, and I hyperlinked it. Let's see if it comes up. Potentially harmful. Oh no. Yes, this is a beautiful map. Absolutely love this map. I've used it multiple times in my videos. And if you're lucky enough to find a map like this that actually shows people's names, oh my gosh. So make sure you're checking the state archives for maps. I'm not going to go into this, probably for the purpose of privacy for whoever might be living in that household right now, but you can see that this is a pretty cool map. Okay, so remember that I said that his research notes were pretty much done per my own notes on my tree, right? Christopher Madsen, check mark. His research notes were, of course, research notes are always a work in progress. So I never share them online because they're always a work in progress. But I'm looking for where Christopher and Laura, because remember, Herman is a child at the time of this image. So, whoops, wrong image. He's a child. So if he's a child, I'm not worried about finding Herman. I'm trying to find Laura and Christopher and whoever this guy is. So I'm trying to figure out who is in that image in the mid 1880s, maybe even as late as 1900. So 1900 census might be an option. So let's make some notes real quick. This is going to be like a quick and dirty research plan. So we might want to look in the 1900 census for all Madsens, just to see who else is living there. We also want to look for Johnsons because, wait for it. Oh, she's a Wobble. She's not a Johnson. All right, so I need to look for Wobbles. That's another story for another day. But let's get back to my quick and dirty research plan. So, see, this is why we do this. Wobble. And by the way, Wobble could be U-L-O-L. There's so many different spellings of it. All right. So the other thing I want to look for is city directories, just to see if there's any. I don't even know if there's any online for that. I want to check family search. I'm just going to put FS. Just to see if anybody has sources that I don't have. I might want to do some searching over there, but I think that's what I want to start with right now. So it's easy, right? Nothing big. So let's minimize that, and we're going to go back over to the card catalog. All right, so here's how I do this. I do everything through the card catalog, and I have Krista Cowan to thank for this, because once she taught me how to do this, I have never gone back. And I have my own twist on this. Okay, so what I do is you go to search and you go to card catalog. Of course, I'm on Ancestry right now. I'm going to drop down and I'm going to search by location. This is Wyoming. This is also Albany County. You got to know your counties. Now, if you can see, there are no counties listed here. This is concerning to me because that means there's not a lot specific to the county. There's Laramie County, which is not where Laramie City is. Laramie County, I think, is to the north of Albany County. So Laramie City is in Albany County. Okay, so now you've got that information. We're looking in the 1880s, and I'm going to look at the state level because I don't have Albany County. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I probably should also look at the Wyoming State Archives to see if they have anything different as far as any records from that time period. That's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll see. Okay, so minimize that. All right, so now I am in the card catalog. I have filtered to Wyoming in the 1880s. And you can see there are 6,000 record sets. The trick is to go to record count to get the highest count. So here's city directories. So I'm going to guess that there's not going to be anything there because there wasn't for city directories because there wasn't Albany County listed here, but let's go look. All right, so once we're here, instead of searching for my ancestor in these boxes, I want to come over here. Now this is another little trick. So once again, I kind of have to drill into the state and then the county. And as you can see, there is no Albany County. So there's not going to be any city directories here for likely for Christopher Madsen, but let's go see just for grins and giggles. Madsen. All right, so when it pops up like this, that means he's already in my tree. I'm going to go ahead and use this and let it pre-populate, and I'm going to hit search. And it might come up with, oh, look, it did. Hot diggity dog. All right, so, oh, and here's Laura. Okay. All right, well, lesson learned, but look at the dates. I'm looking for, see, this is not what I want. What I want is Laramie, Wyoming. So what we're going to do, so that's interesting because the county is not even there. All right, so I'm going to right-click, open a new tab. There's a few of these I'm going to right-click, Open a new tab. Even though that's 1915, I'm trying to get the early ones, right? 1903, that's Denver. We don't want that. Yeah, we don't want any of that. All right, so I'm going to pause just for a second. Talking makes me cough, so I had to get a drink of water. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to, this is Michigan. I could have sworn it said, oh, because it didn't have a residence, but this says Laura Madsen. So this is like, huh? What's up with that? Let's just look just in case. Nels, which is, there is a Nels in the family. But I can't imagine that they are in, I don't see a Christopher, unless he's on the previous page. Am I missing something? There's Nels C. I don't think that's the same family, though. Oh, widow of Laura, widow of Christopher. Interesting. You say, Okay, so this says Michigan. City directory. Michigan City. I'm going to pause just for a second. Okay, what I did was I flipped over to image number 3, which is the front matter. So one of the things you can always do, I just wanted to verify that this was actually Michigan, because this is not where my family is supposed to be. Yes, this is in fact Detroit, Michigan, where the publishers are. Business directory, Mason County. I'm going to assume that that is, in fact, Michigan, because it really doesn't say. But just kind of get in the habit of going to the front matter no matter what you're doing, even though I didn't have any high hopes that this was my ancestor. All right, we're going to close that one out. Move on. All right, Madsen, Christopher, Carpenter, that's him. Okay, Union Pacific, that's what the WP means, because he was working for the Union Pacific Railroad as a carpenter. And this was his address at the time. So, very cool. And so this one was from 1915, and you can see that Herman is listed here too. It looks like maybe a clerk for C.L. Ronner. I don't know what that is. So this is good to know. So this we would add to our research notes if we don't already have it. Let me go check. So this is the 1915 city directory, 1915. Do I already have it in here? I might already have it. Yep. Nope. Okay. So that's one we can add to our research notes. So it's kind of a two-step process. I'm going to save to Christopher Madsen for one. Okay, so bingo, go save Christopher Madsen. Yep, save to your tree. Sure. Looks good. Now I want to go back to that source. City directories. I don't know if it was this one. Let me go find it and I'll come back. Okay, so here I am back in the city. Sorry, I paused for a second. City directory for Christopher Madsen. And what I wanted to do was, here he is. I wanted to add him to my research notes. And in order to do that, what I want to do is I want to add a source citation. So before I get there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take note. All right, so we got Christopher Madsen, Carpenter, Union Pacific. I think that means residence, 513 Kearney. So we go over to our, whoops, wrong document. 1915. I'm going to insert 1915 city directory. Christopher is a carpenter for UP. I'm going to put in here, I happen to know he was with the Union Pacific Railroad, so I'm confident that that's what that is. Whoops, railroad. Come on, Connie, type. And his address was what now? What was his address? His address was, so I'm going to say residence. That looks like 513 Kearney. Kear. All right. Residence at 513 Kearney. And this is Laramie. Okay, so what I do, this is, so for those who like to follow how I do research notes, this, I didn't do it here, but I should have. So year or date, if you have the full date, like here I've got the full date. And item, I usually use a hyphen just to separate those two things, and then the details. So now I'm going to insert a footnote, and I'm just going to leave that open for a minute, and I'm going to go over to Site Builder and use their thing here. And I started, what was the collection? It was U.S. City Directories. I'm just going to copy that, Control-C, Control-V. The website was Ancestry. The URL https://www.ancestry.com. I'm going to say today, and I love this little website. They are doing such a great job over there. This is just a little mom and pop shop who's doing this site builder, and it's awesome. Directory title. So this is where we need to go to the front matter. Am I in the right one? No, this is the right one. All right, so I'm on image 32 in case I need to get back there. Remember that, Connie. I'm going to go to image 3 because that's typically where the front matter is, and I am close. All right, so the boomerang. Let's look at the slides to make sure I'm on the right one. Laramie City, Albany County directory. It's interesting that they didn't have Albany. See, it's showing it as Laramie. Interesting. Oh, Laramie City, Albany County, but they've got the counties and cities mixed up. All right. 1915 to 1916. So really what technically I should do is note that as 1915 to 1916. Remember, city directories usually happened every 2 years. So let me do that real quick and I'll get back to you. Okay, over on Site Builder, I've added Laramie City and Albany County directory, and then the publication place is going to be, wait for I gotta find the right one. The publication place, this is R.L. Polk and Company, publishers, general offices, it looks like the Dooley Building, I'm gonna say Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, Utah. And the publisher is R.L. Polk, and the year is 1915 to 1916. And my guy was on page, I believe it was 32. Let me double check. Madsen. All right, so this is page number 59. Sometimes I will also make note of the image number, but it's page 59, okay? So then we build the citation, and we kind of glance it over and say, yeah, that looks good enough for my research notes. I'm going to put them in my research notes. So now remember, I had inserted it was up here, number 10. I had inserted a research notes by going insert footnote, sorry. And so now I'm going to paste. And I'm going to get rid of that extra space, and I typically make this 10 font, which it is. Okay, good. Control S to save, and now I'm going to go back and fix this because it says 1915 to 1916. All right. So now what I'm going to do, and this is kind of interesting. So this one is 1915, and I forgot to put a source citation. Bad, Connie, bad. All right, I'm going to move that up because to keep everything in chronological order, okay? So anytime, this is, like I said, it's a living, breathing document, and so every time we make a change, if we added something really big, the cool part about doing these references, insert footnotes, if I were to add a whole mess of stuff here, it would push down, the footnotes travel with the source that the information. So if I had put a half a page of stuff in here and this got pushed to the next page, so would the footnotes. So that's why you want to use these insert footnotes. This is in Word, by the way. And somebody asked me what version of Word I'm using, and it is Office 365. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So another question somebody asked was, because I dictate a lot, how they don't see the microphone. And so if you have a recent version of Word and you don't see the microphone, you need to edit the ribbon. So you customize the ribbon and go find the dictate button and add it there, and then once it's there, I'm pretty sure it stays there forever. So okay, I'm going to pause for a second, catch my breath, and figure out what's next. Okay, so at a quick glance, one of the things I wanted to note was that here is Christopher Madsen again. This is the 1911 city directory. This was the second one. So the one we just inserted was the 1915. And I'm pretty much done with that, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to leave Site Builder up. But remember, we were looking for some really in the 1880s, and it doesn't look like there are any city directories for Laramie, Wyoming, except for these years right here. So technically I want to go through all of those. So right now I'm focused on this earliest one, which is this 1911 city directory, and you can see Chris Madsen, president of the Gem City grocery store. This information I'm very familiar with because I did a whole series of videos about this. And Christopher Madsen, again, carpenter for the Union Pacific. So he's actually doing two jobs. He is the president of the Gem City grocery store. He was actually part owner of that. And then he's listed here. And then here we got Herman again. And so that information gets added to the research notes as well. So I'm going to go over there and check and make sure that those are in there. This is 1911. Let's go up and see if 1911, 1911 is not here. So this is one of the reasons why we do, see, if we're looking in chronological order, this is why we keep research notes, because it's really easy to go in chronological order and go, oh, it's not here. So what I want to do is I want to insert 1911 city directory, and I'm going to go through that process again. I'm going to pause the video because I don't want to bore you with that. But I'll get back to you in just a second. Check this out right at the top of the page. Gem City grocery store. They've got an ad at the top of the page where he is. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so what I did was I put the 1911 city directory. Christopher Madsen was listed as president of the Gem City grocery store. Also, another line shows him as a carpenter for the Union Pacific Railroad, residence at 513 Kearney. Note, son Herman Madsen is also listed as a marker. I'm not exactly sure what a marker is. I'd have to go figure that out. I'm going to guess it's like a surveyor, but I don't know. Residence at 515 South 5th Street. Also on the same page, page 83, there is an ad for the Gem City grocery store. So what I'm going to do, just for fun, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab my little snipping tool, and I'm going to start a new one. New. And I'm going to just grab this. I'm going to grab that too because that helps date it and gives us some information. And I'm going to copy that, and then I'm just going to paste that in here because it's fun. Because it's fun, and that's what genealogy is all about. So then I'm going to build a source citation for this. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go back over to, wait for it, Site Builder, and I'm going to change this to, I think this was, I'm going to say 1911, but I'm going to go look at the front matter in just a second. I'm going to say page 83, I believe is what that was. Double check. Page 83, yes. Okay, so this is a work in progress. Please stand by. So we're on image 171. So I'm going to again go to page 3 because that's typically where the front matter is. And sometimes you want to, when you have this many images, you want to look at the whole image to see if there isn't another front matter in between here. And so I'm just going to quickly scroll. Bada bing, bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. I'm going to pause just for a second. Okay, this is a good example why we don't want to go all the way to the front sometimes, because you're looking for these big black start of a new image. So this is image 125. So that tells me that there was different front matter. Oh, what a great image. Check that out. That is cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to scroll forward because I was, I think, on image 170 something. Please stand by. So what I did to find where I was, let me go back. So this was the list from the card catalog that we had, and I wanted to go back and double check to make sure that the image I was on was in fact image 171. It was. Okay. So yeah, sometimes it's just better to scroll backwards to see and if you can find the front matter for this part of the book. And there is, see, now this says 1913 to 1914. So if we go back to image 171, what does this say at the top of it? 1913 to 1914. So that's a perfect example. See where it says 1911? That's the beginning probably of this roll. It's actually 1913 to 1914. So now I need to fix my research notes. This is 1913 to 1914. Good to know, right? So now I need to move that. Do I need to move that? I don't think I need to. No, I don't. All right, so this is the one we're working on right here. Whoops, sorry. Don't mean to make you sick. Accidentally leaned on the space bar. So we're going to, put that footnote in here as soon as I finish building it. So I'm just going to leave my cursor right there for a second. Okay, I found what I think is the front matter for this book. Now remember, they've got several books on the same roll, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes you just need to go backwards instead of going all the way to the front. Which is also cool because this shows us some abbreviations. And so if you were wondering what CARP was, and I kept saying it was carpenter, there it is right there, as it gives us in this book the abbreviations for what we're seeing in there. And let's see if there is any other UPRR. Remember, I said it was Union Pacific Railroad. There it is. So there's confirmation, okay? I had kind of been researching this family so much that I kind of knew that already. So, all right, let's get this citation done. So, in looking at this, all I really need to do is change this to 1914. Everything else is the same except it was image 171. Whoops, I'm on the wrong place. So let's go back and I think it was 171, which makes it, I think, page 83, question mark, 83. All right, so, yeah, I had already changed that. All right, so we build a new source citation. That's just clicking on that build. This is evidence explained style, by the way, and then I'm going to copy that. So it says it's copied to the clipboard. And then I'm going to go back to my research notes, which is right here. And I've got my cursor already set here. In fact, I'm going to put it at the end of the image because that's also part of this. You always want to put it at the end of the information. We're going to go to References, Insert Footnote, Control V to paste, get rid of the extra space, and we're done. We hit File, Save, and we're done. Okay, cool beans. Now, let's think about what our goal was, right? So we're trying to find who's in that image. I'm going to close a couple of these while I'm talking about this. So I've got that. So back to the card catalog, we were looking for city directories for that time period, and I need to go in and I'm going to try this again. Sorry, I lost my place. Please stand by. Okay, I paused for a minute just to keep you from getting bored, because what I did was I went and I added the last two of the city directories that were in there, 1920, 1921, put their source citation information. It's pretty much the same thing. But what is interesting was Christopher is listed at 516 South, which is, if you'll notice up here, it says he was listed at 512 South. Well, it looks like he moved across the street, because his son is listed with him at, I think it was 512 South 8th Street. So it could be, I need to go look at the map again, but it could be that, if I recall, it's been a few years since I did this research, but they were basically living across the street from each other. And so, yeah, it was kind of fun. So this is that map from 1885 that I found on the Wyoming State Archives, and it's in high resolution, so you could zoom all the way in. See, look, woo, we can go all the way in. I know, I just made you sick. I'm sorry. What I did was I took it into Photoshop and I added some stuff. So I may have been wrong about the 516 South 6 being across the street from the 8th Street, which is over here. Long story short, you can do this. You too can do this. And it's fun because you can see that Christopher Madsen's listed here. M. Madsen's listed here, right? And, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I also found where some of the Wooble family had property here as well. Some of the Johnsons who were part of that family as well. Anchor Johnson, gotta love it. There's some more Johnsons. This is the Union Pacific Railroad. My grandmother used to talk about stories of walking down the street. So I think they were living around here at the time. And she said she would take the lunch pail from her mother and walk down the street to the railroad yard. And I have an audio recording of her telling this story of going to the railroad yard and giving her father, which would have been Herman Madsen, his lunch, and crossing the railroad tracks to do that. And then she would get to play in the railroad cars for a few minutes while he ate his lunch, and then she would walk back up the street. So there's a fun little story for you. Okay, we're back over on our research plan. And remember, we were looking for city directories for Madsen, but I also want to look for Wooble. Whoops, and Wooble. Come on, Connie. So I kind of have this checked off because there was 4 city directories that were in that list, and I have now added them all to that. So I'm just going to cross that off as having done that. So this is my little research plan. So back over to search, card catalog. Again, I'm going to go to, I'm starting with a fresh search, but I'm going to go now look for Wooble or Wooble, depending on how you want to pronounce it. All right, so we're going to go to Wyoming. And this is another reason why sometimes you don't want to drill all the way in. Remember, we didn't have the county for Albany, but yet we're finding city directories there. Go figure. So I think they may have been lumped in with Laramie County. I don't know. But so we're going to go to directories. And again, back to the city directories, wherever they are. Let's go sort by record count. Biographies. Oh, what am I doing wrong, you guys? Oh, because I hit the wrong button. Duh. We don't want dictionaries, we want directories. All right, and then we want city directories. This is what I call targeted research. So I'm very specific on what I'm looking for. I'm looking for city directories. Again, I've got it sorted. Here's our city directories. We also have some other public indexes that we could look at. 1950 to 1993, that's too recent. So I don't want to do that. I want these older ones. So I'm going to right click, open a new tab so I don't actually mess that up again. And again, city or county, it might be that that's a city and not the county, but I'm just going to leave it as is and see what I come up with. Now, Laura Wobble is the wife. She's not going to directly come up, but I'm going to spell it that way and see what we get. And I'm going to say Laramie, Albany County, Wyoming, search. And we're going to see if we get anybody. Mads, there we go. Okay, so Mads, let's go look at this is why we leave the tree open. So we are here, so let's open this up and see if we have Mads. Here's Mads. Okay, so just so you'll know, it's my understanding that the Hovbol name was actually some sort of place or location in Denmark, and then when they immigrated to the United States, it became Wobble, because that's how it was pronounced, I guess. I'm not exactly sure, but that's my understanding. So these guys are, I would say, moderately confirmed, but not through the paces that I normally put it through. So this Mads is probably not the same as what's in that city directory, clearly, because he dies much too young. But more than likely, Nels had a son named Mads. Let's just go look. Let's go open the profile. Yeah, he's got a son named Mads. So this young person here is probably the one that came over and is living in, Albany County. He dies in 1915. So, is that the guy in the image? I don't know. Let's keep digging. And I don't want to get too far off track. This is a second great uncle, okay? So now I'm going to go back to my tree using this icon. And I better make sure all my blurs are turned on, just in case. And we go back. And so now we discover that Nels had a son named Mads, which is so typical of this culture. Okay, so that means that Laura has a brother named Mads. Could that be the guy that's in this picture? Let's keep digging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open her profile in a new tab, just so I don't lose my place here. And I'm going to look at her siblings, and sure enough, there's Mads, right? So my thinking is that it could be one of these two guys that are in that picture. So Mads here is born in 1841 and she's born in 1855. So Mads is much older than Laura. The guy in the picture looks younger, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. Could be hands. So I'm going to need to do the research on both of these guys. Okay, so let's add that to my research notes. So we're going to research Mads Nelson Wobble. Research Mads. I think it was Nielsen Wobble. And then I'm going to say research, who's the other guy? Hans Christian. Interesting. He's got Hans Christian Nielsen. See, these guys aren't confirmed. Like, they're listed, but they're, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some digging on that, because I don't want to steer y'all down the wrong path here. So, Hans Christian Nielsen. So, these are, I'm going to say research brothers. I have to go back and look because it could be that these are brothers from a different mother, if that makes sense. And so let's dig into that. So I usually do research notes on direct line ancestors only, but this Mads and Hans, I don't have research notes for, so I need to start research notes for both of those. So I'm going to pause the video just for a minute and get that started. Let me explain one thing real quick. With the Danish naming culture, the patronymic naming cultures, Mads Nielsen, or Nielsen, is the son of Nels. Here's the parent, Nels. So they didn't always have the same last name. The Wobel, from what I understand from a researcher in Denmark at one time, had done some stuff for me for the WikiTree challenge, was that this Wobel was actually that Hovbol, and that meant a place. It was, I'm not sure if it was a type of building or if it was an actual physical place. More research needs to be done on that on my part, but I just wanted to explain why the different names for the siblings. Here's Laura, right, that we've been talking about, and they don't all have the same, necessarily the same last name. So that might explain the Hans Christian Nielsen versus the Mads Nelson Wobel. Okay? And I reserve the right to be wrong. So there you have it. So it looks like I've done a fair amount of research on him, and I need to go and create research notes on all of this. And then on Hans, there's like little to no research done at all. So that needs to get done, and I don't want to bore you with that. So what I need to do to finish telling this story as to who I think is in that photograph, I need to go do that. So what I'm going to do is pause the video here. We're a good 57 minutes into this one, and we'll pick up with this story in another episode, okay? So let me, I don't want to leave you hanging, but as soon as I figure this out, I'll let you know.